I saved the richest man in town when he suddenly had a heart attack, and in return he promised to grant me one wish. Everyone thought I would ask him to have his son marry me. After all, I'd been in love with that man for 7 years. I hesitated for a long time and finally said, "Could you give me a few shares in your company? I want to live off the dividends and go hire male models." The whole room froze. Seeing their faces, I thought they were going to refuse, so I hurried to change my words. "Or you could lend me your adopted son, lend him to me for a 2-month relationship, and then I'll give him back." The silence in the room turned deathly. After a long while, the adopted son finally spoke. "You pay male models, but you expect to date me for free. I once went to Yonghe Temple to make a wish and told the gods I wanted to get rich. On my way out, a shady fortune teller stopped me, grabbed my arm, and insisted on reading my fortune. He said my face carried joy and that I was about to have romance in my life. I was so terrified I waved my hands frantically. "Master, I don't want romance. I want money to spend. Can you think of a way to help me with that?" The master shook his head and even tried to comfort me, saying that this particular romance would be of very high quality. I shook my head even harder. The truth is, I'm naturally sensitive and suspicious. I'm not cut out for love. I'm much more suited to being an emperor, in charge of the wealth of the whole world. Most importantly, I fall for everyone I see. I guarantee I'd treat all 3,000 beauties in my imperial harem perfectly fairly. The master was utterly speechless, so offended he spun around and stalked off. When I got home, I was full of hope that I was about to get rich. A week later, I was strolling down the street when my bag was snatched. Inside was the brand new phone I'd just bought. I took off after the thief, but I didn't catch him. Instead, I ran into the richest man on the roadside as he was having a heart attack. After I sent him to the hospital, people said that in order to save him, I'd even lost my own bag. The richest man was deeply moved and told me he could grant me one wish. This time it was my turn to be moved. This wasn't just a billionaire, he was practically Aladdin's lamp in human form. Before I could speak, I heard people whispering not far away. "President Jones Jr., Angela Lopez probably won't use this chance to say she wants to be with you, right?" At those words, the man in the distance looked over at me, his eyes already filled with a hint of disgust. "Are you an employee at our company?" The richest man's gaze also fell on me. He studied me for a long time, then suddenly looked enlightened. "I remember now. You're the one who danced on stage at the annual party." At the company's annual party, I drew the lot that said, "Dance." As long as you went up on stage, you could get a red envelope bonus. But everyone else had come prepared. The people who went up before me either showed off their singing, or busted out a dance routine. Even that coworker in our department who loves doing the bare minimum went up and performed a clapper talk. I really didn't have any talents worth showing off, but I couldn't bear to give up that bonus. So I just gave everyone a performance of "Good Night, My Lady." My cursed little dance almost made everyone throw up their dinner. After that, I became even more famous in the company. Honestly, I'd already been pretty well known at the office. Because I liked the company's crown prince, Williams Jones. I'd liked him since college and chased after him every single day. Later, when the crown prince graduated and went back to work at his family's company, I worked hard to pass the interviews so I could get into his company too. From college until now, I've been a shameless simp for 7 years straight. After the dance at the annual party, my reputation went from simp to a simp whose brain clearly isn't screwed on quite right. I never expected even the richest man to have heard of me. After giving me another once-over, he still spoke gently. "Have you decided? What wish do you want?" "Anything is fine. I glanced at Williams and noticed his fists were already clenched. Before I could finish my sentence, the door to the hospital room was suddenly pushed open. "Dad, I heard you were sick. I came to see you." A tall, slender man walked in from the hallway. The moment I saw him, my breath caught. What a gorgeous face. His features were fine and elegant, his nose straight and high, his whole presence cool and distant. When his gaze met mine, he gave me a faint smile. A dimple flickered at the corner of his lips, and I was completely stunned. So this is what they mean by one backward glance that outshines all beauty in the palace. Compared to him, even Williams's looks dimmed a little. The richest man kindly introduced us. "This is my adopted son, Charlie." I'd heard the name before, the company's vice president, Charlie. He'd been stationed at a branch office for years, handling business there, and only got suddenly transferred back this year. But how come no one ever mentioned he was this good-looking? "So, Angela, have you decided on your wish?" the richest man asked. I hesitated for a long time before testing the waters. "Could you give me a small portion of the company's shares?" Everyone in the room was stunned. Williams in particular rushed to cut me off. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? They can't seriously think I'm after the company's assets, right?" I immediately defended myself. Just a tiny bit is fine. Enough to give me a little dividend every year so I can afford to keep male models. With money and handsome men, I'd officially reached the peak of my life. My words must have been too shocking, because everyone stared at me with their eyes wide open. Charlie even knocked over the glass of water by his hand, startling the whole room. Sorry. I lost my composure. He quickly set the glass upright again, and only then did everyone snap out of it and look back at me. The richest man asked, "Are you sure?" I turned to look at Charlie. There were drops of water on his hand. The pale back of his hand shimmered with a thin sheen of water. There were tissues right beside him, but instead he raised his hand and lightly sucked the water from his skin, his gaze fixed on me the whole time. The moment our eyes met, I thought I saw the hint of a smile curve his lips, but it vanished almost immediately. I couldn't even be sure I hadn't imagined it. But there was one thing I was absolutely certain of, my heart had just been hooked away by him. Or you could lend me your adopted son to play with. No, I mean, lend him to me so we can date for 2 months, and then I'll return him to you. Angela, are you insane? This time Williams raised his voice and roared at me. The richest man, on the other hand, was used to big scenes. Once his initial shock passed, he quickly smoothed out his expression and asked for Charlie's opinion. Charlie stayed silent for a long time before speaking softly. Why is it that you pay male models, but you expect to get me for free? Then how about this, I'll transfer you some money too. My monthly salary is $6,000. How much do you think I should send you? With that little? You'd better keep it for yourself. I'll agree anyway. Now it was my turn to be stunned. I'd just been talking nonsense, but he actually agreed. He even pulled out his phone on the spot and said we should add each other. Even the richest man looked dumbfounded, then finally nodded after a long pause. All right. Charlie, you'd better treat her well. Yes, Dad. Charlie opened his WeChat QR code. As I scanned it, I noticed his profile picture. My profile picture is a photo of my own shadow in the sunlight. Charlie's photo was also a shadow in the sunlight. Even more coincidentally, the location, the shooting angle, and even the way the light fell were exactly the same as mine. When we left the hospital, Charlie took the initiative to say he would drive me home. He went to the parking lot to get the car while I stood at the hospital entrance, staring at my shadow on the ground in a daze. I heard footsteps behind me, and a shadow fell over my head. Angela, what did you mean just now? Williams had actually chased after me to confront me. He glared at me fiercely, as if he wanted to stare a hole straight through me. You used to cling to me like a piece of gum. Now you suddenly flip your personality and put on a show in front of me on purpose, just to get my attention again? I studied his expression and spoke calmly. President Jones Jr., do you know what you look like right now? You look exactly like me after I spend ages trying to grab concert tickets and fail, then loudly pretend I don't care at all. It's exactly the same. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I'm just warning you, don't get any ideas about me. I will never be with you. I answered with a distracted then got into Charlie's car and left straight away. On Monday when I went to work, my manager, as usual, dumped a stack of files on my desk for me to handle. These all need to be dealt with as soon as possible. I'll put in a good word for you in front of President Jones Jr. All of this work was supposed to be the manager's responsibility, but he liked to shove everything onto me. Because the manager had basically been promoted single-handedly by Williams, and in order for him to say a few nice things about me in front of Williams, I'd helped him with this kind of crap more times than I could count. No need. Please handle these yourself from now on. I dumped the files back on his desk. The manager's eyes almost popped out of his head. Angela, do you know what you're doing? You're not even going to listen to me now. I know exactly what I'm doing. In our department, we've got an old fox of a manager like him, a few people who only got in through connections, and a few fence-sitters who only know how to flatter whoever's in power. They dump all the work on me. I'm still young, and I already feel like a beast of burden. No wonder the pond is so shallow yet crammed full of shameless turtles. I decided I would never do an extra task again. As a result, the manager kept glancing over at me all day. Near the end of the workday, he came over again, this time with a much softer tone. Angela, I really don't have any other choice. President Jones Jr. said he needs me to drink with him tonight. Just help me finish this stuff today, and next time I'll be sure to bring you along. No. I've got a date later. At that, the manager burst out laughing. What kind of joke is that? You're not chasing President Jones Jr. anymore? You can actually let him go? And who would you even be going on a date with? Who would, Charlie, hello? The manager abruptly cut himself off, straightened up, and greeted someone respectfully. I looked back to see Charlie standing at the door of our office. She's going on a date with me. Any problem with that? She can get off work now. The manager's face twisted with horror, and he nodded so fast his head almost fell off. I followed Charlie out of the office, suddenly overwhelmed by the delicious feeling of a petty villain finally getting their moment of triumph. Once we got into the elevator, he pulled out his phone and asked me what I wanted for dinner. We're going together? Otherwise? Since when do people go on dates alone? Charlie's calmness actually threw me off. I was only trying to repay a debt of gratitude, yet he accepted it all so naturally. He had even asked for my home address last night and then waited downstairs this morning just to drive me to work. Compared to how naturally he dropped me off at the company entrance, my sneaky, guilty way of getting out of his car made me look like I was the one doing something wrong. As the elevator went up, it suddenly stopped on the 18th floor. Williams's office was on this floor. Because I'd always been looking for excuses to come up here, I was extremely sensitive to this number and instinctively clenched my fists. Just because it stopped on this floor doesn't mean we'll actually run into him, I told myself, trying to calm down. I was so busy comforting myself that I completely missed the way Charlie suddenly leaned in toward me. Your perfume smells really good today. Huh? He advanced on me, pinning me into the corner of the elevator as soft, scattered kisses fell. The next second, the elevator doors slid open. Williams had just lifted his foot to step in when he walked right into the scene. You too? Charlie carried a faint scent of mint, clean and refreshing. I felt like I'd smelled it somewhere before, but before I could think about it, he had already let me go. Hi, big brother. Williams had already stepped one foot into the elevator, and froze on the spot when he saw us. You too, this is the office. Charlie shifted, shielding me behind him as he spoke calmly. It's after work. The elevator doors refused to close, beeping insistently. Williams stepped back out. Just before the doors slid shut, I heard him grit out between his teeth, Angela, you're ruthless. I was totally confused. How was any of this my fault? I looked up at Charlie, ready to question him, but he had already lowered his eyes, his expression full of wounded grievance. Aren't we boyfriend and girlfriend? Or is it that you don't actually like me at all, and you're just using me to provoke my big brother? Then what does that make me? Just another prop in your little game with him? Wonderful. He knew exactly how to play me. I could only sigh helplessly and drop the subject. Charlie chuckled softly and reached out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His cool fingertips brushed the skin just behind my ear, sending a shiver racing down my spine. Your perfume smells really good. He leaned in toward me again, but I dug into my bag and shoved something into his hand. If you like it, take it. In the middle of summer, a little floral spray really does keep the mosquitoes away. I still didn't understand how one small bottle of Lucian floral water could fascinate Charlie this much. He looked down at the bottle of floral cologne in his hand, his expression strangely complicated. He opened his mouth a few times as if he wanted to say something, glanced at me again and again, then finally murmured, "You really don't know how to be romantic." The next day, I received a company email about a temporary reassignment, asking me to go work under Williams for a while. Last year, Williams had launched his own brand line. The recent campaign had already gone into full promotion mode, and they needed a ton of manpower, so they transferred people over from other departments to help. I'd applied several times but always been politely rejected. Now, faced with this job I'd once dreamed of having, I just felt complicated. When I arrived on the 18th floor, Williams happened to be walking out of his office. Our eyes met and he gave me a cold, mocking smile. We're just short-staffed. Don't overthink it. My job was basically to run errands and help with miscellaneous tasks, but the problem was that in a little while, Williams would be doing a live stream for the brand launch. Because of this, everyone on the project team was swamped. The coworker in charge of showing me the ropes told me he hadn't left work at a normal hour in half a month. I had a bad feeling in my gut. Sure enough, as it neared quitting time, Williams dumped another pile of work on us. Everyone was furious, but no one dared to say anything. When Charlie didn't find me in my own department, he came straight up to the 18th floor. The moment he stepped out of the elevator, I could feel the temperature in the air drop a few degrees. We agreed to go to the movies today. He walked straight up to me and was about to shut down my computer when Williams walked out of his office. She still has work to finish tonight. I don't remember our company ever forcing employees to work overtime, Charlie replied. At that, Williams gave a derisive little laugh. But right now she has to stay by my side. Until this project is finished, she has to follow my lead. The tension in the air grew razor sharp. A coworker beside me poked my hand excitedly. Suddenly, I realized the fortune teller hadn't been talking about romantic luck. He'd been talking about a romantic disaster. Charlie didn't argue with him. He simply took my hand. Do you want to leave with me? We agreed to go to the movies together today. Williams's warning came immediately. Angela, don't forget who you're working under right now. Do you still want your bonus this month? I fell silent for a moment, then said softly, why don't you both name your price? I'll see who's worth going with. Since the scene was already a complete mess, might as well raise a glass and drink from the chaos. In the end, Charlie was the one who left first because he got an important phone call. On his way out, he kept turning back to look at me, his beautiful face written all over with reluctant grievance. I admit it, my heart was already hooked. "Angela, what are you thinking?" Williams's voice sounded behind me. He was staring straight at me, holding the stack of documents I had just printed. Because I'd been spacing out, the pages had printed crooked. "Don't think you can use Charlie to provoke me. I transferred you here purely for work. Don't read anything into it." I nodded and forced a smile. "Don't worry. I don't like you anymore. I'd liked him for 7 years, and I was simply out of strength for it. You shouldn't use sunk costs as an excuse to keep clinging to a bad investment." Once I confirmed I no longer liked Williams, my first instinct was to put distance between us. Williams suddenly clenched his fists. The papers in his hands crumpled into a ball. "It had better stay that way." He threw the words over his shoulder and turned to leave. I was sent down to the 3rd floor to deliver something. The new product launch was going to be held there in a few days. The props for the new line were already set up inside, including a massive champagne tower. It was a full 2 meters tall, and supposedly had taken an entire day to build. I had just set down what I was carrying and was about to leave when I heard a familiar voice. Charlie was standing in a corner, seemingly on the phone. "Have the media arrangements all been handled?" "As soon as possible. I'll deal with these things. You just need to make sure everything goes smoothly." He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, sunlight from the setting sun outlining the long lines of his figure. Charlie's gaze drifted, almost accidentally, to the champagne tower. The calm look on his face suddenly flashed with a brief, dark edge. He walked toward the tower with graceful steps, continued talking to the person on the other end of the line, and reached out a hand. With the gentlest touch, one glass near the middle shifted just a little. The next second, the 2-meter tower collapsed in an instant. Glass shattered across the floor, the noise making everyone nearby jump. Only then did Charlie hang up. Facing the coworkers who rushed over, he explained in a soft voice, "I'm sorry, I bumped into it by accident. I'll arrange for someone to clean this up." After saying that, he turned to leave, and ran right into me standing in the doorway. In that moment, I clearly saw a flicker of panic in his eyes. The champagne tower had fallen, and Williams was furious. Maybe it was because he had poured all his energy into this brand line and couldn't accept even the smallest mistake. In any case, rumors soon spread through the company that Williams had actually laid hands on Charlie over this. The moment I heard that bit of gossip, the hand I was using to make tea froze. Because Charlie really hadn't come into work that day. He'd messaged me earlier that morning to say he wouldn't be able to pick me up or drop me off for a while. Given how much President Jones Jr. cared about this brand line, it was normal for him to be angry. But it was just a set piece. Besides, hadn't Charlie already arranged for someone to rebuild it? They were brothers. "No blood relation," someone scoffed. "What kind of brothers are they?" "Everyone knows the little brother's adopted. The inheritance has to be split in half." "Who'd be happy about that?" my coworkers whispered in the pantry. I stared at my phone for a long time, hesitating, then finally messaged Charlie to ask. "I heard you and Williams got into a fight." "It's fine. I'm used to it." My brows furrowed even tighter. Back in college, Williams had once gotten into a fight on the basketball court after losing a game and had beaten the opposing player so badly he ended up in the hospital. Because of that, everyone criticized him for being emotionally unstable, and my roommates all tried to talk me out of liking him. But back then, I'd had my own reasons and stubbornly insisted on going my own way. "Show me." During lunch break, I hid in the emergency stairwell and called Charlie on video. He picked up quickly. The moment I saw the bruise under his left eye, the curse on the tip of my tongue almost slipped out. "Of all places to hit, why did he have to hit your face?" "It's fine. I've already put medicine on it. It'll be gone in a few days. I'm just happy you called me." He was leaning against the headboard, wearing only a sleeveless top, his solid arm muscles exposed. I glanced at them, then quickly looked away and hurried to defend myself. "I really did call to check on you. The past few days, with all the overtime, the only time we had to talk was a quick video call before bed." At first, Charlie only aimed the camera at his face. "Aren't you with me because of my face?" "It's okay. My face is still part of me. As long as you like it, that's enough." Then one night, right in front of the camera, he took off his suit jacket and loosened his tie. Watching the veins stand out on the back of his hand and the collar of his shirt open to reveal his collarbones, I practically drooled. Charlie caught my expression and simply unbuttoned his shirt all the way, openly showing off his body. "Do you like it? If you do, I'll show you whenever you want." From then on, he gave me a little benefit every time we video chatted. I suddenly felt like this relationship was a huge bargain. You'd have to search with a lantern to find a boyfriend this generous. I did 2 chest workouts today since I'm off and stuck at home. My heart pounded wildly as I watched him take off his top on screen. My eyes went completely glazed. Bang! The door to the stairwell slammed open. I was yanked back to reality, my finger accidentally hitting the screen and ending the call. What are you doing? Williams stood across from me, backlit so I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could feel the cold radiating off him. If you don't rest at noon, how are you supposed to have the energy to work in the afternoon? If you're really that idle, I can always give you more to do. President Jones Jr., what I do on my lunch break is my own decision, isn't it? I stood up and slapped the dust off my pants, about to leave, but Williams blocked my way. You haven't fallen for him, have you? You chased me so hard everyone in this company knew about it, and now you think you can just walk away? No way. And do you really think Charlie Jones is any kind of good person? I turned to look at Williams. Faced with his high and mighty tone, I couldn't help letting out a cold laugh. You care this much about us? Are you sure you're not just losing it? Ever since Charlie came back, people in the company had been saying his abilities were better than Williams's. Especially since he'd managed the branch office so well, with performance numbers soaring. His transfer back to headquarters was clearly the chairman's way of evaluating a successor. That's why Williams cared so much about this new brand line launch. It was his best chance to prove himself. But no one expected disaster to strike on the day of the new product launch. Because it was a live stream, there were a lot of media outlets present, and everyone was being extra careful. But the security slipped up and somehow let a woman slip in. Williams, you slept with me and promised you'd take responsibility afterward. Is this how you keep your word? Everyone turned toward the sound. When they saw the child in her arms, even more cameras swung in her direction. The kid looked way too much like Williams. Facing the barrage of microphones and cameras, the woman didn't flinch at all and started shouting out her story. A year ago, Williams got me drunk and forced himself on me. When I got pregnant, he said he'd take responsibility for me and the baby. But this year, he's been disappearing every few days. Today I'm going to expose what you're really like in front of everyone. Williams's face went white. He shot frantic looks at security, signaling them to get her out of there. But staring at the child she was holding, they didn't dare so much as shove her. With the standoff dragging on, the woman continued. A year ago, he took me out for drinks and kept forcing alcohol on me. He said if I didn't agree, he wouldn't make my position permanent. I'd only graduated less than 2 years earlier, and because I believed him, I ended up as a single mother. My life has been completely ruined. The live stream flooded with viewers. The comments flew past in a blur as everyone weighed in. Williams rushed to cut the stream and shouted for security to get her out. But no matter how he scrambled to contain it, it was too late. The video was uploaded online almost immediately, and plenty of people in the live stream had recorded the whole thing themselves. Even inside the company, everyone was talking. I'd actually found out about this 2 months ago. From that moment on, whatever affection I still had for him was completely used up, and I became even more certain he wasn't the person I was looking for. After the incident, upper management held an emergency meeting and contacted the media right away, hoping to stop things from blowing up. But onlookers still posted the video to mock him. Even the new brand line they'd spent years preparing for was ruined by Williams's shattered image. All that effort went down the drain. The higher-ups discussed it for a long time but couldn't come up with a solution. The only thing everyone agreed on was that the project was a lost cause. The project team was disbanded overnight, no matter how much Williams promised he could fix it. That day, I actually got off work on time for once. Charlie messaged me to say he was waiting at the entrance to drive me home. Once I got in the car, he even did something rare and turned on the Bluetooth to play music. At a red light, I watched his long index finger tapping lightly against the steering wheel in time with the beat and couldn't help asking, "You're in a pretty good mood. Don't tell me what happened today was your doing. If I told you it was, would you hate me?" Charlie met my gaze, clearly waiting for my answer. He was so nervous that a sheen of sweat had formed on his palms, his fingers twisting together restlessly. I'd liked Williams for 7 years, ever since my first year of college. I'd tested into the city from a tiny backwater county, full of hope that I was about to begin a beautiful college life. The reality, though, was that I couldn't fit in with my dorm mates at all. I was suffocated by coursework every single day, and the prices in this big city were way beyond anything I'd imagined. For a long time, I questioned my entire existence. Williams was pretty well known on campus. He came from a rich family, he was good-looking, and of course tons of people liked him. At first I just noticed him from afar, until one day, after juggling non-stop part-time jobs and classes, my low blood sugar and high fever hit at the same time, and I passed out right on the side of the road. In a daze, I felt someone pick me up and carry me to the hospital. When I woke up, the person had just left, and all kinds of food sat beside my bed, still steaming. There was also a beautifully wrapped bouquet of flowers. My mysterious savior had done his good deed without leaving a name, just a single note. Spring is almost here. All the bad things will pass. A nurse came in just then to change my four and started teasing me. Your boyfriend was really worried when he brought you in. He was running around drenched in sweat. Did he already leave? I didn't know how to answer, so I just gave an awkward smile. The nurse glanced out the window and noticed someone leaving downstairs. There he is. He probably went to buy you something. I struggled to sit up to see my savior, but all I caught was a retreating back getting into a car. But I recognized that car. It belonged to Williams's family. He'd ridden that car to campus more than once, swaggering all the way. At first, I just wanted to thank him for taking me to the hospital. I didn't know why, but somehow rumors started spreading that I liked him. After hearing it enough times, even I started to get a little moved by the idea. And that ridiculous crush ended up lasting 7 years. To be honest, there were plenty of times along the way when I spaced out and thought he really wasn't all that, but then I'd remember that he'd saved my life. Until 2 months ago, when I went to drop off some documents and overheard him talking to someone. That woman actually went and had the baby. If the old man finds out, he'll kill me. Back when I slept with her, she was still putting on this chaste act, refusing again and again when I asked her out for drinks. I only said I'd take responsibility to shut her up, or she would have made a scene at the company. Who knew she'd be dumb enough to actually give birth? She looks pretty average too, nowhere near as pretty as Angela. I only picked her because she had a decent body. In that moment, all I felt was nausea. I started to wonder if I'd been blind for all these years to like someone like him. Every last bit of feeling vanished in an instant. When his scandal got dragged into the light today, I watched it like a spectator at a play. I watched his years of pretense get stripped away, his hypocrisy laid bare in front of everyone. What did any of it have to do with me anymore? When the light turned green, Charlie stepped on the gas again, humming along to the music, clearly in a great mood. I studied his profile and once again marveled at the greatness of that face. Have we met somewhere before? A face this gorgeous, there's no way I'd forget it if I'd ever seen it. Yet I couldn't recall any specific memory, only a strange sense of familiarity. Well, maybe it's better that I don't remember. That particular memory wasn't exactly dignified, anyway. After dinner, we took a walk along the river. The night wind was chilly against our skin. Charlie held my hand tightly, warmth constantly seeping from his palm into mine. Halfway along the path, I suddenly stopped walking. I've been here before for a competition. I walked this same road, and one night I actually ran into someone about to jump into the river. I remember it pretty clearly. Back then, I'd just started high school and had come with my teacher for the contest. I sneaked out of the hotel alone at night. I couldn't bear to spend money, so after agonizing for ages, I only allowed myself one grilled sausage and gnawed on it by the roadside. Right there by the river, I spotted someone with half his body leaning out over the water. But at first, I honestly didn't think he was trying to kill himself. I even sidled up next to him, looked down at the river with him, and asked curiously, "What are you looking at?" He looked about my age, wearing a denim jacket so faded it had turned white. Staring at the rushing water below, he said quietly, "I'm planning to jump." His voice was hoarse, like he'd just finished crying. I jumped in fright and grabbed his hand in a death grip. "You absolutely cannot jump. There's only the two of us here. If I call the police, they'll treat me as the first suspect. Most importantly, I have an exam tomorrow. I don't have time to sit there giving a statement." "It's fine. You don't have to call anyone. Nobody cares whether I live or die. Even if I disappear, no one will care." "Who says that?" "I care, for one thing. If you jump, you'll pollute the river, and the environmental inspectors will care too." And I suddenly didn't know what else to say. I didn't even know why he wanted to jump. If it turned out his parents were the ones driving him to this, bringing them up would just be rubbing salt in the wound. After thinking for a long moment, I finally handed him my one and only grilled sausage. "Have something to eat. Even if you really are going to head out, you should at least go on a full stomach." He hesitated for a long time, then reached out and took it, whispering a thank you. He actually ate it. I only had that one. Internally falling apart, I still handed over my precious sausage. In the dim moonlight, he wore a baseball cap, so I couldn't see his face clearly. But I did notice the bruise at the corner of his mouth, still seeping a trace of blood. After a long, silver-tongued effort on my part, he finally gave up on the idea of jumping. Even now, I still think I was pretty incredible back then. It's just that 10 years have gone by. This bridge has been renovated countless times, and I can't pinpoint the exact spot anymore. But whenever I think about it, I can't help feeling smug. By the time I finished telling Charlie this story, he was standing there in a daze. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Charlie lowered his head to look at me. The night breeze ruffled his hair, and as I stared at the sharp line of his jaw, my memories suddenly overlapped. As he looked at me, tears suddenly spilled from the corners of his eyes. The next second, he bent down and covered my lips with his. The kiss tasted of bitter tears and was filled with an endless tangle of emotion. I felt as if I'd been pulled back into that winter night 10 years ago, to that wounded boy who was so disappointed in the world he'd decided to end it all. The moment I dragged him back from the edge of the river, I felt life sprouting again. This kiss made feelings run wild, a tiny sprout in my heart breaking through the soil and growing unchecked. That sausage tasted really good. Charlie gently pulled back, brushing away the tears rolling down my cheeks. I looked into his eyes and saw my own reflection there. Were you the one who sent me to the hospital? That familiar mint scent, years ago, the person who took me to the hospital had smelled the same. Yes. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I hadn't even properly thanked him. You don't need to thank me. You pulled me out of the abyss too. On the way back, I asked Charlie how he'd ended up as the Jones family's adopted son. His steps clearly faltered, and he forced a bitter little smile. My dad was his driver. One rainy day, he insisted on going out to meet a client. There was an accident on the way. My dad turned the wheel to shield him. He only got a minor injury. My dad died on the spot. When my mom heard the news, she was devastated. Her health had never been good, and the shock knocked her down for good. She never got back up. So I was adopted by the richest man. But to make things easier on Williams, the richest man never really paid attention to me. My life wasn't much different from before. I lived in the maid's room and had to do everything myself. Williams would even use me as a punching bag from time to time. I got used to being covered in bruises. When people asked, I'd just say I'd fallen. He pushed me down the stairs, held me under in the pool. Back then, the only thing I could do was not fight back. If I resisted, the consequences were too severe, so I could only grit my teeth and endure. When I grew up, all I wanted was to escape. But more than that, I wanted to find you and stand in front of you with a better identity. Charlie chuckled softly and laced his fingers through mine. Don't leave me, okay? You're all I have. He leaned closer, bent down, and nuzzled his head into the crook of my neck. Let's call it begging, yeah? My heart pounded wildly. I knew I was completely done for. Charlie was even clingier than I'd imagined. Even though we worked at the same company, my phone buzzed constantly with his messages during the day. Every time I picked up my phone to slack off a little, I'd see another text from him. When the company sent him on a business trip, his separation anxiety got so bad he cried into his blanket the night before he left. Meanwhile, Williams's scandal kept snowballing online, and people dug up all kinds of dirt on him. The company's image tanked. The richest man was so furious he came down to the office himself to lay into everyone. To try and salvage the situation, he contacted the biggest name in the media industry, hoping they could help manage public opinion. The person who came was the owner's daughter, and unexpectedly, she took one look at Charlie in the elevator and fell for him on the spot. By that very afternoon, the gossip had spread through the entire company. Once the young lady heard about Charlie's background, she immediately demanded that he dump me and be with her instead. Charlie's reply was jaw-dropping. Is your brain just for decoration? How do you even manage to say something that stupid out loud? She'd clearly never been spoken to like that before and started cursing Charlie out in the middle of the office. Charlie called the police on her and had her taken away. So when the richest man was finally ready to sit down and talk business, he discovered she'd already been taken to the police station. Right before quitting time, a man knocked on the door of our office. Miss Lopez, President Jones would like to see you. I followed him up to the conference room on the top floor. The huge room held only the richest man, and the atmosphere was suffocating. Ever since I'd learned what Charlie had gone through as a child, I couldn't shake the feeling that the chairman's kindly face was nothing but a mask. You saved my life before, and I never thanked you properly. I really can't give you any company shares, but... He slid a check across the table. Money isn't a problem. I've heard you're quite capable at work. As it happens, the company has a fully funded overseas study program. Would you be interested in giving it a try? So this was just him paying me to take the money and get lost. The richest man tapped the check on the table, his tone leaving no room for argument. This is a very good opportunity. Dating is just something you do for fun. Right now, the company values you. Does Charlie know about this? His smile disappeared instantly. I looked down at the check. Only 500,000. In novels, it always starts at 5 million. How could the richest man be this stingy? Do you really think Charlie will love you forever? I admit he may be obsessed with you right now, but I know this boy. He'll calm down soon enough. You're not planning to marry him off for some business alliance, are you? Just to clean up the mess Williams made? That boy has never gone against my word. And right then, Charlie pushed the office door open. Unfortunately, this time I'm going to disappoint you. What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to take Miss Lily out to dinner and apologize? I didn't feel like it. I told her I never want to see her again in this lifetime, and that my girlfriend and I are very happy together and not planning to break up. Miss Lily was deeply moved and said she'll never work with our company again. The richest man shook with rage, clutching his chest, speechless for a long moment. I quickly twisted the knife. Please do take care of your health. I might not be around to drag you to the hospital next time. You, Charlie, don't forget who gave you everything you have now. Without me, you're nothing. Charlie calmly took off his employee badge and set it on the table. The message was clear. Fine, fine. I really did waste all those years raising you. You know exactly what Williams has done to me all these years. Charlie took my hand and walked me out of the company. On the way to the car, I was still thinking about that check. It's still $500,000, you know. We could pretend to break up, take the money first, and let the capitalist have a taste of how cruel people can be. Before I finished, Charlie pinched my cheeks. Am I really worth less than $500,000? The next day, $1 million landed straight in my bank account. Charlie stood in front of the mirror, neatly dressed in a suit, tying his tie. That transfer was from you. I just wanted you to know I can make you more than a dozen 500,000s. He brushed a kiss against my lips and turned to leave. So he'd had his exit plan ready all along. No wonder he'd been able to walk out so boldly. With Charlie resigning of his own accord, there was no way I'd walk away unscathed. It didn't take long before I was fired too. But getting a generous severance package wasn't bad at all. Especially since I'd already lined up my next job and had been planning to quit anyway. I hadn't expected such a perfect opportunity to be delivered right to my door. I was so happy I went straight to Yonghe Temple to repay my wish. Charlie started his own company, ready to spread his wings, and I reported to my new job soon after. The atmosphere at the new company was harmonious. One lunchtime, while everyone was chatting about gossip, someone suddenly brought up Williams. What a shame. Such a promising guy, and look at him now. Who are you talking about? I immediately leaned in to listen. The crown prince of the Jones family. Didn't he sleep with that intern before? She had his baby, she kept pestering him, and now she wants to take the child back. But he never intended to take responsibility for her. On the way to snatch the kid, he got into a car accident. Looks like he'll be in a wheelchair in his next life. I couldn't help sighing. The next second, someone dropped an even bigger bombshell. And his dad, President Jones, apparently when he found out, he couldn't take it. Had a heart attack. He's gone too. One earth-shattering piece of news after another left me reeling. I opened my old company's website. It was all black and white now, dominated by the word obituary. In just half a year, disasters had struck so suddenly that no one had time to react, but in the end, I was just a spectator. Like everyone else, I could only treat it as dinner table gossip. Charlie messaged me to ask what I wanted for dinner. I hugged my phone and started ordering food immediately. When it came down to it, their story no longer had anything to do with me. All I had to do was cherish the person at my side. That was enough. Extra, Charlie. He'd long since grown used to not resisting, not fighting back. He knew it was pointless. No one was going to step in for him. Williams's words still echoed in his ears. Your dad was just our driver. If he hadn't died, would you ever have had the chance to live in my house? You're really lucky, you know. Lose one dad and you get another one right away. My dad's way richer than yours ever was. All he'd ever wanted was his own father. The little dog he secretly kept in the yard was Charlie's only friend. After his parents died, it was the only living creature that ever listened to him. One day, the girl Williams had a crush on suddenly handed Charlie a love letter. When Charlie got home, he found his room completely trashed. The walls were covered in slurs, his bedding soaked with some unknown liquid that stank. Williams stood on the stairs, looking down on him from above. I did it. What are you going to do about it? No matter how much Charlie endured, it never seemed to lead anywhere better. In the end, even the little dog died. He searched the yard for a long time and couldn't find it, until he finally discovered its skin stuffed into his own bed. Williams's voice sounded from behind him. Do you like it? It's my gift to you. Oh, and that soup tonight was pretty good, wasn't it? Shame the dog was so scrawny. It only made one small bowl, and I generously let you have the whole thing. The nausea washed over him from head to toe. Charlie swung his fists with everything he had and fought Williams with reckless fury. That night, covered in injuries, he slipped out of the Jones family estate alone. He walked to the riverbank. All he had to do was jump, and everything would finally be over. He closed his eyes and felt the wind rush past his body. Just as his center of gravity tipped forward, someone grabbed his hand. His heart jolted despite himself. What are you looking at? Show me too. I'm going to jump. It was a schoolgirl in uniform, clutching a grilled sausage in one hand. When she heard he wanted to jump, her eyes went wide, and she started babbling the most random things. She even handed him the sausage she'd been holding. "There's so much good food in the world. Don't you want to try more of it? I heard that in early spring, the flowers by the road are really beautiful. Have you seen them? What color are they?" She talked, and when he let his guard down for a second, she actually yanked him back from the edge. He had no idea how a girl that small could have so much strength. They toppled onto the roadside together. She lay there, panting hard, still muttering nonstop. "The water must be freezing in winter. Why don't you wait a bit? When spring comes and the water's warmer, you can jump then, and see the flowers first." Her words slipped into his ears like a ray of sunlight. For the first time, his barren heart felt a trace of warmth. When he became an adult, the Jones family wanted to send him abroad, probably hoping they'd never have to see him again. While he was working himself to the bone overseas, he kept thinking of what she'd said. He never imagined their reunion would look like that. She had collapsed by the side of the road, and the roles of savior and saved had flipped. He should have stayed until she woke up, but after years of poor nutrition and messed up schedules abroad, he'd grown terribly thin and haggard. He didn't look good at all. He'd only been allowed to come back because he'd helped manage the branch office while studying overseas. Once they saw what he could do, they permitted him to return. Williams was still out partying every night, and in a fit of anger, he'd smashed a bottle over Charlie's head. There were still wounds on his face. If he could, he wanted to appear before her in a better state. So he used every resource he had to keep track of her. He checked in at the restaurants she'd visited, looked at the scenery she'd seen. He would only stand openly at her side when he'd become better, stronger, more worthy. He'd left in a hurry that day, leaving behind only a bouquet of flowers for her. The spring flowers he'd promised.